I'm Brandon.
And I'm Brandon.
And welcome back to Apollo City Comics, your anything and everything comic book podcast. And dude, we're doing a daytime recording. It just feels weird. There's like light outside, and
I
there's
know.
like neighbors like doing yard shit right now. Like it's different. It's a different vibe from it's like getting coffee with someone. You know what I mean? Like it's just not.
I like your segue. It's like getting coffee with someone.
Oh, I should have used that. That should have been my segue.
I know. No, dude. I was gonna say like. Let me just mention on my days I don't work, I am not up before noon ever.
Yeah.
Brandon knows this.
Brandon has the wackiest work schedule in the world. He like goes in at like 4 a.m. and then like at 2 a.m. and then at like 9 a.m. and then like 6 a.m. and then it's just like all over the place. So yeah, I mean we're here. We're here to rock it.
Yeah, I'm here for you, for us.
So, honestly, while we enjoy a nice cup of coffee together that you probably got from Coffee and a Comic over at coffeeandacomic.com, where you get fucking bagged and boarded books with your orders. Like, why would you order comics anywhere else when you get bags and boards? Like, as the political spectrum is shifting between red and blue right now in the country, whoever would have like been like, I will provide bag and boards for all your comics would have won half the fucking country in an instant, because nobody likes bagging and boarding their books. It's a bitch. They just sit there for months as they stack up, and then you got to get the tape, and then you try to stuff it in. And it's all fidgety. Have someone else do that. Have Frank over at Coffee and a Comic over at coffeeandacomic.com. Hit him up. Set up a pull list. Use our discount code below. We get nothing out of this too, by the way. Just to remind you guys, like Frank is just a cool dude, and you should be hitting up his shit, because when he runs for president, he'll have bagged and boarded books for all of us, and that's what we want. It's a better, safer country.
He's got my vote as a fellow Californian. That's all.
Yeah. Former Texan, now in Virginia. We're gonna transfer that over. Like, yeah. So I was in Baltimore Comic-Con a few weeks ago. I guess now it's been a couple weeks at this point, and it was phenomenal. It was rad. I keep on kind of bringing that up, and I met so many cool people, and I've networked harder than I've ever have. I've networked differently than I ever have in my life. It wasn't with like bigger creators trying to meet like their marketing and PR people, trying to get like, we've had like one bigger creator on the show, but we've always been very indie focused. So this convention, I kind of shifted gears to be like, I want to hang out with the indie creators, because we're on that boat. We're putting out books. We're having shit come out. So I want to see that life, see that history, see, what it's like to run a table and what you're doing and how things go. And I mean, this was a great time to network. And this was a great time just to meet phenomenal fucking people. And I met this dude one day, and we were just like looking at his book, and we found out they were nominated for fucking Ringo. And then we were like, you're going to win. And then the next day fucking won. And so I am hyped to like announce these guys and bring them on the show, because they're just so fucking cool. We have Vincent Kings, and we have Christopher Miskiewicz. I fucked up your name. I already forgot. I think of like Mixoplex from like Superman, and that's exactly where my fucking brain went as I read it. What's up, guys?
Well done. No, well done. Totally well done. Good enough. Fair.
It was a good attempt. It's like Bill Sienkiewicz.
It's just like Sienkiewicz. Yeah. And I did for a bunch of years. I've said this before. I was bothering him on Twitter and on Facebook or whatever, with the same exact like word for word tweet for a bit. And I did get I got him like 6 months ago, where I was like, he was on Dean Haspiel's page, whatever they were talking about, and I got on there and I was like, hey Bill, don't you think it would be a really cool 22-page one shot if two comic creators with similar last names just had a meta comic about sitting together in a coffee shop and talking about the comics they could do, and we call it Kevich?
That's fucking great.
And all I got a like. I'm
good. He acknowledged it. He saw it. He was just like, hey. He probably got a chuckle.
Yeah. He looked at it. He said, okay, maybe next time.
Yeah.
Whatever. I would assume it's like a
Yeah.
Because that's how he laughs.
Like. There you go, kid, with a similar unfortunate last name.
I'm not convinced Bill Sienkiewicz runs his own social media.
Oh man, thanks, man.
There was a while back where he would show up to conventions with like a cardboard box of stuff that he clearly picked up from like the grubby floor of his studio, And then one year I saw him with like this gorgeous, beautiful entire like gallery display, and I was like, oh no, some representation got to him. And they had phonetically spelled out his last name so that everybody could understand it.
Yeah,
So
they had it broken up. They had the dots like in the middle of like the name and shit.
They're like, you're gonna get it right when you talk to him.
Just to end that tangent right there. Thanks, Dream Breaker, Vincent Kings. Thank you. crushing my Kevich moment of fame on Facebook.
Okay. Yeah, that was a heartbreak from the start. I mean, that's better than me messing up the name. So thanks Vince for saving that on me. Guys, fuck, you guys were just like at Baltimore. You guys have worked together on a couple books, not just like one. You've done what, like 2, 3, or is it 2?
We've got this. This is where we fall was the first one that we got out of the park, and we've got a couple things that we've been jamming on and have made and or are pitching or have failed utterly at pitching and will never see the light of day. But
yeah, that's the one that got out. And then there's always, I think that's every indie creator. There's a bunch that may never see the light of day or in the process of making their way to the light of day. We have not a bad batting average, I feel.
No, we're pretty good at this. As far as pending proven brand, still proving it, but I think it's a solid beat right now.
How many years have you guys been together at this point?
We've known each other about 6, right? I'd say 6.
It might be more. I feel like I hit you up when I was still in high school.
That's not true.
No. College.
Yeah.
How did you guys meet? First and foremost.
Yeah, it was the classic thing you're not supposed to do, where Chris was on a panel with Mark Wade, and it was moderated by Adam Greenfield, still a good friend of ours. And it was like a Breaking the Comics panel. So I was like a nerd who was in college, not high school, trying to break into comics. So I sat there and I dutifully did sketches of everybody on the panel. So I was like, they'll see me in the audience and they'll know I'm an artist. And then I probably saw that somewhere. I have to really dig for it. But and then after the show, I was like, this guy, Christopher Miskiewicz, he seems approachable. And so I went and like threw my portfolio in his face like directly after the panel. And he's the only guy who gave me his business card at the whole thing. I mean, no surprise.
I adored it. It was like I'm on a panel with Mark Wade, and half being on the panel, I'm also like just keep turning to my right and going like, oh my God, Mark Wade's talking like 6 feet from me. But I'm like, what the fuck is this? Yeah, it was hysterical. I said a couple of things I think that made sense, which was also shocking. And like Mark, like I look over at Wade and he's like nodding, like, yeah, man. I'm like,
it's like, I don't know what you're here. Yeah, what do I need to say? Like,
what do I do? Like, can I? Like, they just needed to fill seats on this, right? Like, cool, yeah. I'll sit here, but no, it was. I had my first book out at Boom, or it had just finished, or whatever it was, and I was like really just my head above the water. My first book out that wasn't at an indie level. Like you'd go into a shop and there was your book. That kind of moment. You're like, oh wow, really? Really?
Yeah,
oh wow,
cool.
Look at that. Yeah, it was just a good year. And Vin came up and did that. And to be fair, nobody had ever in my attempts at being, a writer trying to get people to tag on to my crazy fucking ideas. Nobody had ever been like, hey, do you want to see my portfolio? I was completely like, yes, I do.
Yeah.
This is no shit. We're doing that. Let's do that. So it was great. We stayed in contact for about a year. And his style jumped every 3 months. His style jumped. It just was like, what the hell is this? And then he'd send something else, and I was like, what the hell is that? And I think it was the third time he sent something. I kind of nodded and was like, okay, all right, yeah. No, we gotta figure something out. And we did. It was great. And it's been,
the same thought seeing Vince's stuff. Like looking at like Time Dog was the first thing that like he handed me, and it's a gorgeous book. Like it's fucking dope.
Time Dog's so good. I mean, he's been doing that in his back pocket for a couple of years now until he finally started throwing those out at the world and stuff. The moment he had those in just like that cool strip zine. We did Baltimore. I think you had them at Baltimore Special Edition, or did you have them at? I think you had them both. Yeah, whichever. Maybe it was at Baltimore. Wait, it was Baltimore last year, and then San Diego Special Edition that you had those, and it was just like you put those on the table, and they were just like a magnet for kids. It was interesting to watch. All of our other stuff is, stuff I write is half biography, half music biography, half whatever we make up, but it's all fairly mature. There's no draw in what I have for kids, and it was just like watching a magnet, just like every kid was just like a dog sniffing another dog's butt, sniffing another dog's butt, and they grab that cover, man. You got to make posters of that. You got to make like a gigantic, normal, like sideways poster-sized poster of that image, I think, and just sell that.
That would be
a dog sniffing another dog's butt, sniffing another dog's butt.
Where did this come from, dude? Like, where did time go? I mean, it's actually, just so everyone knows, like, there's a Kickstarter, not a Kickstarter, it's a Zoop. Yeah,
Zoop. Yeah, I saw that on Instagram.
Yeah. For the Time Dog, like kind of a complete collection. It's colored. I have this cool black and white version that I got at Baltimore. But like you have a whole thing going. Tell us about your Zoop, and why did you choose Zoop over like Kickstarter, Indiegogo? I'm curious about that aspect too.
Sure. I'll go all the way back to the beginning and say Time Dog, no surprise, began with the title just because it cracked me up to imagine a time traveling dog. And like I knew instantly, I was like, okay, it must be a normal dog. It is not Wishbone. The dog does not talk. The dog is able to time travel because it's a dog that doesn't understand time. That's like how time travel works. It's, and in the lore of the strip, I'm sure you've read it, but time travel is only possible for those that live in the moment, and humans are too worried about the past and the future to time travel. But kids are like close enough to it that they can ride on the back of a dog. So hence I was like, okay, so we've got a human companion. Someone can talk in the strip. And from there I was like, okay, I grew up reading Calvin and Hobbes and watching Doctor Who. So it's going to be, a Calvin and Hobbes style, like gag strip that kind of builds up some more continuity as it goes. But really it's just fundamentally like, let's see what happens when you drop a dog and a kid into like these wild historical and sci-fi situations. But as you might, as you can tell from looking at it, it's a weird indie book format. Like it's not a clear start to finish sequential story. It totally works for kids, but it's not a thing that's easy to pitch. I think you kind of just have to see it. Mm-hmm. So I was like, if I build it, they will come. I will put it out. And sure enough, it's finding an audience. So the way to put it out quickly, because I wanted to get a book out this year, was to do Zoop, because what they do that Kickstarter doesn't do is they actually print and do order fulfillment, which is a thing that kills everybody on Kickstarter. You have done Kickstarters, yes, Brendan?
I haven't. I'm doing my first, that punk rock anthology I'm putting together is our first Kickstarter, and then I'm doing my book right after that. So that'll be.
You have to tell me how it goes.
Yeah, it'd be fun. I'm gonna go to Mark's house and just get a bunch of stash and like wine and just like, all right, man, let's fucking
things and
all DIY punk rock shit, just like everyone like. Yeah.
You got your warehouse situation sorted out? You got like a garage somewhere?
Mark's living room.
Garage.
Mark's living room that we're gonna turn into that garage.
Yep.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Yeah, even in the place I'm at too, I have like a good spot reserved to like put all like the orders and work at it here, because I know that's gonna be like my job after my job, where I'm just like every day just 30 packages or something. Hopefully, I mean, if you're doing kicking ass and shit. But yeah, it's gonna be a lesson.
Well, I was afraid of that and was like, you know what, this is a weird new platform, but they've done some super cool projects on it, and I thought, okay, like
they reached out to us about the anthology and shit, and I was like, I don't know who the fuck you guys are, but this is all comic book focused. And it seems really interesting because it's all like comics instead of being fucking anything on Kickstarter and whatnot.
Yeah. We met them about 2 years ago or whatever it was, just when again cons started opening up after COVID. It was Eric who I met him at a couple of things. I met him through Greg Tumbarello originally, and it's the redemption aspect of what they do that's I think the draw. I don't know anybody that, well, everybody will do it, but nobody really wants to do exactly what you just said. Turn your
Yeah.
garage, put the garage out in
To
the
shipping and handling.
the whole thing, man. All like, yeah. I mean, some people can do it well. I think I know, Matt Rosenberg and Tyler did something like for a week on their last whatever. They were like up in upstate New York, just like doing that for real. That's a gig, it's a gig to do. And I don't know if I have the head to do that either. It's one of those things where I think I like the idea that there is a go between that does it, and hopefully it works well for Vince.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, it has so far, and we're very close to being funded. And
at the moment, like, you still have like what? I mean, the time of recording this is like a week before the episode comes out, but like you're already just like 150 from your goal. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
he's inches away.
Yeah.
So by the time this is out, we'll be in the stretch goals, and I guess we can talk about that. But yeah, I'm stoked. I'm too all over the place to have committed to one warehouse with a bunch of books in it. So I'm stoked, man. They're making my dreams come true. These Zoop boys.
Yeah, that's some cool stuff. Like, what are you doing for stretch goals? Because I'm sure they're going to be like open by the time this comes out. So tell us about like your first stretch goal that you're trying to hit.
Sure. So it was initially not planned as a stretch goal, but it has become so because I'm running late on it. But I want to do a poster that's like a full it'll be called When in the World is Time Dog, and it's going to function also as an educational tool where like it'll show you the different eons on Earth, starting with like the oh my gosh, and I'm forgetting the name right now, the Hadean era of like the volcanoes that were forming Earth, and then you'll switch into like the beginnings of life, and then you'll see it'll be a total like a Mobius strip winding around showing you all the different eras, and it'll be a super cool thing to like have up in your dorm room or classroom potentially, because it is sort of educational, and it'll also be like a Where's Waldo poster because you'll look for Time Dog somewhere on there.
Nice.
Damn, so that's smart. That's smart.
Yeah. So that's the first one. And then I really want to get some pinups by a bunch of people that I met when I was doing an artist residency in France. That's where I started doing the strips. If you've heard of the Maison des Auteurs, it's like a super kind of a thing that Americans are like can't believe exists. That it's like literally a studio, and it's a studio space that is open to international comic artists, and they also have apartments in the same town. They're like a 5-minute walk away. So if you get accepted, you can also request an apartment space for however many months you're there. So I did that for like 3 years actually, because it was such a nice situation, and met a bunch of people from France, and my roommate was Serbian. I want to get him to do a pinup. So that's the next one, is I want to pay them well. I want to get some original art of Time Dog for the back of the book.
Nice.
And then I have some kind of half-baked ideas of other short stories I want to do if we really have the extra pages to devote to them in the book. So
oh, cool. So just like a bunch of great content pumping out of this at that point too.
Hopefully. Yeah. It's already like a pretty short book, but it's like jam packed. So I really wanted to just keep that density the whole way. So yeah.
Hell yeah. And I mean, we met at Baltimore Comic-Con. You guys were there for a very monumental kind of moment. Tell me about like your process of dealing with the Ringos and how that came about. Like, how did that
big weekend, really big weekend, weirdly big weekend for us. I think we both went into it like everybody goes into any kind of award ceremony. You expect to lose. You keep yourself quiet. Like, okay, but it was an interesting weekend. I was up for 3. Vincent ended up being up for 2, and winning 1. Our book was up for best OGN, best original graphic novel of the year, which was pretty crazy, considering that's insane. I mean, that's just every graphic novel in that category of the category of I mean, I can't. That one makes no sense. It's like, what is that? It's Best Picture, right? In the Oscars? Right.
They did not last, so yeah.
Yeah, it was a weird weekend. I was up for Best Writer. Everybody I was up against, I knew I was like, there's no way. It was like, this is amazing. It was like Rocky Balboa in, I don't know, in a fight with, right? There's no way. And then for the Elvis book, I had best nonfiction graphic novel. I was up, Andrew Aiden and I were in that one. He's the writer of the entire March trilogy. I'm like, there's no way. I mean, I love that we both lost in a way. I was like, I wrote an email to him a couple of days later. I was like, it was an absolute pleasure losing with you.
Oh yeah.
But it was interesting being a spot at a con where just a lot of folks were coming around because of what was happening. Be cool about the entire situation. Like, we were thrilled. Like the getting This Is Where We Fall out took a lot. It was a huge labor of love. It got delayed a couple times for a dozen different reasons, and
of course,
there's that whole beat of like, this is never coming out, and then we had our own personal beats that were happening in our lives through it, and the fact that it came out and that it gets this nod was great. Yeah, and then let alone the fact that Vin wins like the fan award is just for best new talent out of the blue is just stellar. We put that in there when we were running, the campaign with our friends, like, hey, please vote for this. But the fact that we didn't even know that was a cat. I didn't remember.
Yeah.
When we were at the award ceremony, we're like, and strikeout. All right, cool. Last one of the night. Well, we know what's going to happen with that. And then all of a sudden it's like, and best new talent, Vincent King for This Is Where We Fall. And we just stared at each other like, I'm sorry, what planet is this?
Wait, are they announcing the losers? Wait, what?
It was amazing. It was an amazing. He was on his phone. He looks up from his phone. Vin looks up from his phone. He's like, what? And I'm like, what? And he goes, what? And I go, what? And he stands up. He takes like 10 paces away and turns around and looks at me and goes, Chris, what is going on? It was beautiful. I got up, I gave him a hug. I was like,
amazing.
Go, just go. I don't know.
Just accept it. It's not a mistake. Go take it.
Go up there.
Am I getting Steve Harvey over here? What's going on? This has
it was great.
I'm telling everybody we lost everything we expected to lose, and then won one that we didn't even know I was up for. So then I promptly went up there and forgot to thank everybody. So
as you do, completely as you do in a moment like that, man. It was really good. It was a highlight of like 10 years of trying to type comics and do that, for me at least. It was the highlight of a decade of trying to do this stuff. I like using the word break in, but I never broke in. I used to be Dean Haspiel's like kind of weird illegal +1 at this like a number of times, like 8 years ago, and sit at that particular show and be like, oh, cool, neat, what a great grab bag. If anything, I just wanted the grab bag of books more than anything else. What do they have? Oh my God, free graphic novels and chicken? Give me this.
Down. Yeah.
But free graphic novels, chicken, and a bunch of award nominations and a win was a little better than just sneaking in.
Yeah.
Did you afterwards? How was that for you guys? Like, talking about it, was it one of those moments where like you were still in shock, or?
I've never.
Go on, sorry.
This guy was the belle of the ball. I was never more proud of anybody in my life, man. I've watched. I've had the pleasure to like hang out next to him since he got out of college, did the whole France thing, like met all these people, had this entire like style occur while he's writing and drawing and like everything. And then like his first book out, I got to hang out next to this guy whose first book out, he wins a Ringo. This was a great night. I don't know. I don't think I saw him. I don't think I ran into you after we walked out of it for like an hour. I found my way to like a patio with my lettering team, our lettering team on this, and a bunch of other people, and it was just a cloud of marijuana smoke for about an hour directly after that I was involved in with everybody. And then just slowly made our way into like the creepy cafeteria bar that everybody
as it goes. Yeah. Okay.
But I was right after the ceremony, I just sort of needed air. I'm making quotation marks in the air, but also just not to be inside for a bit. But it was solid, man. It's a great party. That Baltimore throws a really cool party, and it's a good convention. You feel it as well. It's not quite like other cons It's very homegrown and
Yeah.
tethered, and it's quiet, or if that makes sense for a convention.
For sure.
I don't feel like that's the
Except
right
for that
word.
fucking announcer the whole time, man. Like fucking
That's
blasting.
Brad. That's Brad, man. That's his. Hello,
That's a bit
Baltimore.
Everybody just like motherfucker. Like, shut
like,
up.
oh, if we gotta just stop all conversation so that this guy can plug John Leguizamo again.
It's funny, like, because I was like, I think Saturday, and we had hung out with a bunch of indie creators Friday night. We were all kind of hungover and late on Saturday, and they started I was posting shit on the Apollo page, and the dude came on, and I tagged Baltimore Comic Con in the post before it, saying how hyped we were, and then I didn't tag them, but I posted like the guy talking, and all of us were just like having a headache, and I was like, "Shut up, dude, we're all hungover." And then they saw that post, and then I tagged Baltimore Comic Con under my next post, and they saw that one too. And then the next time the announcer came on, it was like a female voice, and it was way quieter, and all that shit. I was just like, man, I think they fucking got the hit. Like,
they probably saw like everybody's posts, like someone in that sea of complaining was like, this motherfucker's too loud.
Yeah, it just started dim down.
I'm pretty sure that's Brad. He does that, and I think he completely tongue in cheek is like, it's just like, hello,
yes,
brother,
because he can. He has the power. Fuck it.
Like, yeah, he's like, how high does this go? Up to 11. That's that.
I want to make sure they hear it. Like they're gonna know.
Especially those punk rock anthology kids over there.
Fucking blasting us.
Fuck those kids. They're hangover.
But I mean, it's crazy to hear you say that. Like you haven't like broke into comics in a sense when like you're doing. You had the Grateful Dead book. You had the Elvis book. Like those are fucking kick ass too, man.
Thank you. I'm really proud of the two of those. I absolutely adore the Grateful Dead book.
And that's through Z2, right?
Yeah. And all three of these actually came out. The Grateful Dead Origins, Elvis the graphic novel, and This Is Where We Fall. But Fall was supposed to be the first one that came out, and then they changed their model to the music beats that they do, and making it more of like a multimedia comic company. And then that was the first time it got pushed. We had the search for the artist, a musical artist, and so it was an interesting beat. But yeah, I mean, 10 years, that's about right though. It's rough just typing comics. It's rough just typing anything unless you have a certain kind of hit or secret. And
I feel like it's so tricky to get into this industry that you don't even notice as you're doing it, that you're like, you turn around and you're like, oh look, we're up for Ringo's. Are we established creators? Like,
like when does it become official?
Yeah, and it never does. It's such a, I don't know, like that was my experience with the cons, being like, oh, we're in the club, I think. It's like crazy because you're just so conditioned, and it's always a fight. You never like rest on your laurels. You're always like, what's the next thing? How do I keep pushing? But yeah, by the time you get there, you don't even know you're there, which is kind of sad. But I think that's like, you got to just love the fight, I think. So,
it's part of the fight. I mean, it's real. Like, again, it takes years to get a book out. I mean, you know this yourselves, doing what you're doing. It's not a quick process. And then what you want from that experience also needs to be balanced and put into check, because you might not get what you're hoping you want from putting out something, and be that music, be that any corner of the arts, that you could just take out the what you're doing and put whatever it is you do into that kind of a thing. Like, you want to win an Oscar and be an actor. Well, there's a long road doing that, man. Are you ready for that cost? All of those things are kind of considered in this. As far as like, I feel like I'm a bit of an anomaly, because although I do write these sci-fi and magic based, fantasy things, I've also had these really cool 2 successes with biography work and music biography writing, and so I'm kind of just pleased at the moment. Like, it's not just comics. There's also just me looking at a writing career, because I don't think anybody who just writes one genre, writes one thing. I'm a playwright. You write screenplays. What are you doing? I just write novels. You write screenplays too. What are you doing? Everybody. everybody knows what they do. But that said, it's I like that I got that little beat of like, well, these are doc biography writing. That's interesting. That's that. I like that. That's like just real world, solid. Just well, that happened writing, and then there's my crazy stoner shit and everything else that I do. Everybody else that like, that's kind of where I roll. But I always say it's a Teflon wall doing anything in entertainment, like Teflon, pots or whatever that you cook in, pans. Like you have a moment and you hit it, and it's just like next month, a different press circle, and you're already sliding down that wall a little bit. So constantly just like kind of like slapping at the wall, trying to like
stay there and fucking
hold
be
on
above.
I like it here. I like it here. I like it here. Oh, damn it.
And I got all those texts of him being like deep in the research process on the Grateful Dead, being like, dude, I'm smoking weed and I've read 5 Grateful Dead biographies this week. It looks thick when there's a pretty book on the shelf, but the grind of actually like making, especially for the Dead, the fan base knows so much about them. Like it had to really get it right.
Being from San Francisco, I've seen.
That was a job. That was a real job. I've never been more afraid of anything I did. I was petrified of that. Petrified of that book the whole time I was writing it. Petrified of that book when it was coming out. And until like fans were actually in my face at conventions being like, yo, this is great, and buying like 2. I was like, what? No shit. Oh, wow. Nice. All right. Nobody's coming to kill me. This is like, no one's like, that's not what they were wearing or something.
See, that's so cool. Like that Z2 like platform, that's what they got my attention, because like I grew up, musician, and grew up with that type of, Motorhead and everything they're kind of covering and shit like that my dad got me into. Now they're doing books on them, and now there's like Angels and Airwaves and Weird Al and all this other cool shit. Like that's a fucking dope way to do comics. And
it was a smart model, and had it been done, sure, but I don't think it had been done well anyway. So in that regard, it's a really smart. Yeah, really, it's just like it was just a smart model. There's a lot of like, there's some right moment, right time, right place. That's how you say that. There's some right time, right place to it. They were just a normal comic company doing graphic novels, just like Vault or Boom or anybody else at that point, just a smaller tier. And they made I think it was the Paul Oakenfield. I think they did a book with it, and that was the first time they're like, oh wow, check this out. Look what happens if you add a QR code with a downloadable album to it. And they just Ponzi schemed it from then. I mean, it really just became an umbrella beat. There's 2 other companies doing it now. Vault made their announcement last week, and I believe Behemoth, who is called Sumerian, are doing the same model. And it's, of course, it's a technology, right? It's can each company continue then to put out something that has the quality control and I guess the quality control from both the onset of fans and the IP holders, the licensors in this, if you could continue to do that, you could probably rock the model, and competition is good, right? That's what they say, at least, So I dig it. I thought it was really interesting to watch this. And I do think that COVID helped too, in a way. People were not able to do things they normally would do as far as shows. So musicians, just on a bottom line sense, I'm sure we're looking for a new revenue line, right? Yeah. So here's this now trapped audience. All right, here's a way. So I do think it was a lot of factors that did help that company. In regards to myself with them and Vincent, they do a good amount of anthologies. You did, what was it? The one on the left, the podcast on the left one?
They call it Last Comic Book on the Left.
Yeah, right. And and I what I've noticed over, they've been doing these anthology based books, which have several artist writer teams and sort of shorts lately. But as far as like the legacy books they did, I think it started with the Grateful Dead and then Elvis, and I believe there's the Charlie Parker book and the Doors, maybe. And those are pretty much like the 4, those are the 4 docs you would go for. Those are the 4 like AMC, CNN film documentary kind of books that they're going with. Like it's that, and I'm proud to say that honestly, like, and this is just crazy. Like the 3 books I've done with him have brought Z2 4 Ringo nominations.
Fuck yeah.
And then if you want to throw it, the only book they've ever won an award for is through young master Vincent King's over here, who won the Ringo for Best New Talent. So, you know, I'm pretty proud. I can't speak for us, but I'll do it. I think we're pretty proud. I'm pretty proud for like that relationship with those guys for like the last 4 years, man. It was cool to be in something that was something new that was happening, that was showcasing something so old. And then in regards to This Is Where We Fall, you know, they let us just do exactly what the hell we wanted with that and completely tell the story that we wanted to. They didn't jump in on us at all editorially or anything once.
Nice.
It was, that book is Vincent and I, you know what I mean? And that's kind of hot. That's neat.
That was, yeah, as far as I know, that's the only music book they've done where we had the book all basically already created and settled. And then they found a musician who kind of supported the tone we already established. So if you're familiar with Mitski's music, it's not quite her normal stuff. It's totally like she made cowboy music for our sci-fi cowboy.
Oh yeah, that's dope. That's too dope. Nice.
So,
like, did you get to choose like the Elvis and Grateful Dead things, or did they approach you to like?
I said no to Grateful Dead for 8 weeks straight, and was petrified of everything I just said. I didn't want to get killed.
Were you like a Dead fan at that point?
Just, you know, like any musician, totally knew them, know them, liked the songs I did, but was in no way as deeply invested as
you weren't an invested deadhead, as they say.
As they say, you know, I was not at a point where I'd be able to teach a course, you know, yet. It's kind of, that's an investment at that point, man. Like, no, I said no for a bit. I didn't want to, I realized I have worked in film and television as my day job since getting out of college, and a million capacities, none of which are anything more than grunt and crew grunt for most of it. But with that said, like I've worked on docs early on in my career when I was doing production work and stuff, and just documentaries are not quick or easy. And it's work, and I was petrified of the amount of research that I would end up doing even more so than. So I said no for a lot. And but the reason they picked me, one of the reasons they picked me was my first book was this family of cursed magicians called Thomas Alsop that I did at Boom Studios with Pelle Schmidt in 2015, 16, I think, 14, 15, something like that. I did a ton of research with that because it was 50-50 historically based in New York. So all of that shit was real. And then 50% just my crazy story that I threw on top of those events. So, you know, at the time they knew I would deep dive off a cliff and do the research is what I think was what they were looking for that book. Elvis, I said yes to a lot quicker. The original artist on it was Christopher Hunt. Chris Hunt, he's known for a book called Carver, but he ended up getting a great job and having to kind of jump and make that decision. Do I do this, or do I kind of carve out possibly a new creative director career somewhere else? Ooh. And he went that way. So I jumped on Elvis originally. I was like, oh no shit, I'm working with Hunt. This is gonna be all right. This is gonna be 2 a.m. calls of, much like Vincent and I knew it would be not like a gun for hire situation, but like a real creative relationship of like, I have an idea. I was just watching this thing. What if, and then like a fucking 2-hour conversation about a jacket would ensue. I was in for that. Like I was down for that. I like that. I like that. That kind of, that gets me off when I'm doing this stuff. Like I really dig, like when you're like, check this out. I was just thinking it's raining, right? So what if, and you never put that in the script, but you have a great 3 hours talking about it at night.
Yeah. Like, you get that idea out, like at least.
So, it's the filter. But that's why I said originally yes to that. He jumped off, and Z2 got Mike Shelfer on it, and he did a fantastic job as well. So it was a quicker yes for Elvis. But at that point, I knew how to sift through that kind of information to make it into a comic where you can't hear the music, right? That was a challenge that took a beat to get over. Like, how do you do this? How do you tell a band that you can't hear the thing that you want about why you like the band? da, da, da. I was sort of like, how do you do this? How do you show music?
Yeah.
Fun, right?
Yeah. That's it's a nice challenge. That's a nice it's a nice
Yeah,
way to
no,
put
it's
it
true.
to show like the roadblocks you go through on that. You know what I mean? Like,
How do you do it?
Yeah,
How do you do it?
especially for them, their band, that's like a jam session kind of band, you know? Like every live performance is like the songs transform into like 20-minute jam sessions. It's like, how do I convey this?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And with that said, Noah Van Sciver, knocked it out of the park on it. He was an absolute pleasure to work with on that project as well. He once he started, it was like, seriously, within like 6 minutes, that guy was just in it. He's like just in the project. It was really
nice.
that guy's just a great cartoonist.
Yeah, and it makes that art pop so well. And for being like a stoner book, you're just like, this is pleasant to look at.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And also
like,
the paper quality, all of it. There's something about it that it felt like it felt like an old timey book, like a 60s book or something. Like it just felt, even just what they printed it on, it wasn't your normal high gloss. Here you go. It was I think they did that on the deluxe editions, but the soft cover had like a like a grainier paper quality. I like that, frankly. I was just like, oh, this is hot. Look at this,
You want to
But
make
then
it
there's
feel from like the 60s and 70s, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. So conceptually, it really, I think it worked. His art, the feeling of it, all of it,
You can also feel that the way Chris works on a comic really is like a jam session. Like he wants to work with people he knows. He's going to chit chat on the phone with ideas for you at all hours of the night. Like in some ways, like he is the perfect dude for that book, I feel.
Nice. Fuck yeah. I mean, yeah, that collaboration process is a big step. Like, is that something you've learned a lot just from being with Chris so much? Is like what it's like to really truly collaborate with someone? Because I feel like that's a roadblock for a lot of early creators.
He's really spoiled me in a lot of ways because like now I'm like, oh, here's a guy who's like all in on a book. Not everybody's up for that collaboration. I've gotten other offers, and you're like, oh, okay, some people like they write the script and then they're done. It's like all in your hands, which can be great in its own way. But Chris here, you can hear he's being very modest, but like he totally like pushed our whole Ringo campaign as well. Like he's involved in every aspect. He loves the paper quality. Like he really like is down to collaborate on every aspect of it. And I'm like an egotistical artist, so like I have very strong opinion on like how my art should look and how it should be presented. So like we can have a conversation about every one of those things at every step, and I'll be like, no man, you wrote this in a stupid way. We're gonna change these. Like, we have fights, but they're always about the work. It's not like, yo, you suck as a person.
That's the way it should be. Yeah.
We both want to get
so. Could you imagine that though? Would you just draw this? I fucking hate you. I mean, that would be such a horrible. Just draw it. Can't you read? Can you imagine? It'd be horrible. It'd be horrible.
I can imagine.
The script is shit. Rips it in front of him. Start over.
Yeah, like
what language is this? What language is it? Spell check can't even.
That's the big thing. Like having an artist to like meet up with and just talk story, because it's like they're the one taking it over, they're the one that's like gonna make it come to life because you just sat and typed up and mapped out a bunch of shit, but like it kind of reinforces it all. Yeah, straight up. Like, because
it's the thing. It's real. You guys are, the illustrator on a project sits there and stares at there, conceptualizes it, and makes it not just ethereal. It's a big deal to put all that together. Yeah.
Because it's not a comic without it.
Right. And then depending on what an art team is, begin your next layers, all those other people too. If you're not, Vincent's like a triple threat over here. He could do the whole thing himself. But in the case of like This Is Where We Fall and other pitches, we've always used Darren Bennett and everybody over at And World Design as our lettering team. They're cool. Just great. This isn't the reason I do this. I do it because I want to be precise and I want it to feel right. And I don't think there's something about the final few lettering passes I find when you've got all the word balloons in place and whatnot, and just like sort of taking that night or taking those 2 nights and just, I'm going to do this again tomorrow. I'm like just reading through whatever the 22-page chapter is and talking it out loud. Seeing how it sounds, seeing if bolding something helps in the delivery of how it might be more impactful for a reader. all of this matters, and I think it matters because I remember being at a bar at New York Comic Con once after one night, and someone's like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "I'm a comic book writer." I'm like, what does that mean?" I'm like, well, I write the scripts, and the person totally benevolently, this wasn't like being malicious, but she was like, "Oh, those things have scripts," and I nodded. I went, mm-hmm. And then yeah, and then her friend goes, "So wait, what do you do? Do you put the words in the balloon?" And I went, "Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's what I do. I put the words in the balloon." So ever since then, I'll do like a final pass on lettering and stuff. And I don't know. There's a few things I've been hearing from other illustrators, other creators. There's just a bit of quality control as far as I think why comic writers get a bad rap that maybe just due to scheduling they don't do, but exceptional, if you if a mediocre attempt at anything will give you mediocre results, an exceptional attempt at something might give you a little bit better. It's not the way that quote is supposed to be, but
the reality of it.
That, but it's really the truth, man. Nobody's gonna give a fuck about what you're doing like you will while you're doing it. Back to what are your wants in doing this? You want to be an art, you want to be an art star and work at Marvel and DC and do that. Cool. That's a solid thing. That's a solid want, a solid aim to do that in comics. But there's beats to getting there. I look at it like bands, to go back to music, because we all play and whatnot. Like just even with just the rights in a situation with like the licensed work you do, that's what that is, and work for hire and your contracts, and that's just you make that deal. But in regards to like creator owned stuff, I have always found that it's best to run it like a band. And in that regard, if you're in a band and you're, the drummer is there, the bassist is there, the guitarist is there, everybody's singing. Who wrote the song? The band wrote the song, right? So how do you split the rights? You split the rights. You cut it exactly how you should. And that is how I've run any of my projects that I try to do. Like Vin and I are This Is Where We Fall. Patty Schmidt and I are Thomas Alsop, and other things I have in production. The same thing. If anything goes forward, I think it behooves the creative team to be at a 50-50 mark the whole time, even just negotiating rights against another publisher. And of course, for any kind of higher media contracts that can and clearly do come after something's been in print in this industry. So, with all that said, I guess that's my long-winded tangent of saying like I look at this as like you're going to put a book out with somebody that's something you love. It helps to like your creative team, and be able to like not talk about anything you're working on, but everything that's going wrong in your relationships and your father's elbow, and why brakes are so expensive when you have to get a car inspection. Why do they make you do that? Like you're in each other's lives. And it's a real relationship when it's right, when it's good. I think I like that. I just, it takes a village. Nothing I've ever done by myself has ever gotten made, man. Anything I've ever done with people though has a shot. How's that for hippy dippy?
Dude,
you like that? How's that some Grateful Dead post stoner wisdom over there that the boomers taught me through research?
I mean, that's what it is. Like, it's funny how many musicians I've met that, like, even Mark from Lesser Known Comics, musician, kind of like retired from music and does comics, and it's like the best way to retire from music because you're not lugging around an 8x10, you're lugging around long boxes. It's a bit better on the back, and you go on tour, but not with the whole band the whole time. Like it's you're on your own, and that makes it a bit easier.
There's very much a show aspect of the public face. To this at conventions and panels and such. I personally, I'm very private for someone who's as outgoing as I tend to be, and the social media aspect of it is like, I don't want to do this. I don't want anybody to know what I'm doing. Oh my God, I don't want to give everybody away. Here's my dog. Here, everyone. Here's another picture of my dog. I could do that, but all of it is part of it and somehow weighed in, which is just so strange that it's all quantified.
What's that like, that convention life? How are you guys enjoying it? What have you learned from it? Like what can you tell people that are, we get a lot of indie creators that check out the show and like that are trying to get on that convention life or haven't experienced it before. Um
I I think I'm a bad influence at these events.
I don't know.
I,
You were one of the top people I met at that event because I was there to say hi to Vince
uh,
for a second, and then you and I bumped into each other, and then we rambled, and then you networked me
uh,
with like four other people, and I was like, this was my jackpot. Like
I
this
don't know.
was yeah.
This is not my normal life. These are 3-4 days
Of
that I'll go
course.
to.
Yeah.
It's also 3-4 days that everybody else is going for too. So what are we're going to do whatever the business aspects of it that we're going. If there's meetings, if there's portfolio reviews, which writers don't get to do because that's so weird. That would be the longest, strangest book. No, read the next chapter, please. Just another 15 minutes of your time. Just read. Gets good.
It's another 40 pages. It's a slow burn, but I promise you, it's well worth it.
Did you sign up for the writer's review? No. The line was so long. There were already 3 people on it.
Have you ever done one of those? The like comic creator connections? Because like the con I met you at, like the day after I met you, I went and did that. And it was really like speed dating where like the artists were the pretty girls and then the writers were just these desperate people who like
dude
loved everything. You've done one of those then?
I did one in San Diego. I signed up for one, and I was like,
"That's the one I did." Yeah,
okay.
Totally.
I wonder if we might have like I don't know what year, but like if we met at one point, that would
Did
have
we
been hilarious.
Sweaty handshakes.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
and then we're just like,
check out
what
my work.
do you want to do? Like, and you're right. It's speed dating because then you're just like, like I want to have you, but nothing you said like interests me, and I don't want to do anything in that style.
Then,
but will you draw my book?
You have that lingering feeling. What if the next one is the right one, though?
Yes.
I don't think that's the way. I'm sure that was a lot of fun, though. But I
didn't get anything out of it, so I don't know. Nothing came out of any of the people I met there at all.
Could be fun if you don't take it serious, I guess. You just kind of see what happens.
That's kind of what I came to, because by the end of it, I was like, wow, this is like a huge like ego trip for me to have so many people who like want to talk to me. Because being an artist who hasn't broken in at these conventions, you really feel like you're just knocking on every door trying to get Marvel portfolio reviews, and it never goes anywhere. But then you're like, oh, but I do have something. Like the fact that I can draw a book and make it exist is a skill. It's just a skill that hasn't manifested as sellable books just yet. But dude, the amount of people at those things who are like, yo, it's a story about a superhero who's struggling to be a dad and he's got a difficult relationship with his father, and you're like, oh no, dude, this is a review, this is not therapy.
You're like, do you want to do a time traveling dog?
Well, that's kind of the confidence I got out of doing enough of these. Like, also just hanging out with Chris, I was like, oh, I'm taking notes. Like, here's how you make a thing exist on your own. Because it's been a spell for me to like build up the confidence to go do a thing totally on my own. And Time Dog was the first one like that. So, you just gotta like, okay, I have dumb ideas. They're like as dumb as anyone else's, so why not make them exist?
Yeah, fuck yeah, man! Like it's I mean, honestly, meeting everybody at the convention this last weekend like was so inspiring to be even tighter with that indie community. Like, the road to like start making comics, Apollo started so I could break into comics and meet people to get into the industry. It took 4 years, but like it's finally happening and whatnot. And then networking with you guys and seeing how many creators are doing stuff just on their own. We do a drink and draw segment on Thursday nights where me and Danny, another part of this team, we'll just hang out and just draw every night because I didn't know how to draw and I don't fucking know what I'm doing. So I was like, I'm fucking learn how to draw a little bit. And we're switching that format to like making comics. So we have like, Danny's working on projects for a newspaper. I'm doing one called Space Cadet. And it's just like a fucking cat in space and shit. And it's like, we're just going to figure this out and just make comics and see what, just what we could produce and see how we could figure it out. And, whether it sees the light of day or not, it's like we gave the attempt. Like, I got my my Ames letter fucking guide over here and shit. So I'm gonna fucking try doing all. Yeah, fucking.
Look, it all ends up being fantastic experience in levels you don't even think you're gonna end up doing. And very, very much like Ben said, like if you build it, you know, they will come. Like you end up with this arsenal of stuff. People find it and listen to it. You meet tribes at each of these conventions, 1 by 3. You meet new people who, you know, it's kind of it's interesting. I've always liked that aspect of it. You know, I mean, like going to conventions is very assassin for me. It is about the meetings I have. It is about that. But once it's 8 p.m., 7 p.m., I mean, we're done with the floor. And I don't believe that the floor is. I mean, you said this then at this con. Like we're driving back up to Philly to drop them off. Like the floor really isn't where anything comics really happens. Like it's just the show of comics. It's not. You know, business doesn't really happen there. I mean, it does, but it doesn't. You know, it's like here's the spectacle of it. Every meeting I've ever had has been off campus at a bar with any editor I've ever, you know, like I'll meet you there. All right, cool. We're gonna have 3 beers. We're gonna talk for like an hour and a half, an hour, like adults about what we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen next to the Funko stand. Yeah. It's just not. You know what I mean? Like, although it can. And with that said, like, you know, like if you're an indie creator and you're going out there and you got your book, you got your first issue, you got your pitch, you got the whole thing on your iPad, get there on like New York Comic Con preview day and walk around on Thursday in that first 3 hours, because that is the only time the publishers and the editors will be at their booths, because they want to see if the booth can run.
Yeah.
And after that, you're never going to see them when you get there Saturday at 3 p.m. They're not there. They don't want to be there. They're at the bar with me having a meeting.
Yeah.
You know, and there's truth to that too, because like my first time we ever sold a book, man, Patty Schmidt and I walked the entire San Diego Comic Con and did the cold pitch thing to everyone we could. And the first people we talked to were boom. And they ended up buying it. So again, it does work, but you really need to hit those places with a plan. I mean, as much as luck is involved, you know, you do make your own luck.
Also,
yeah.
Go for it. Hanging out with Chris also really taught me, like, I thought there was like, oh, you sign up for these portfolio reviews, you go meet these editors at their booth, and like, in fact, it's more like a circus of like, if you perform success, then success will happen, is kind of the weird thing about it. So you do want to have a good looking booth, you do want to have all the books at it, but like, I would like this show too, I was like, man, I'm having to fly out from Brussels to make it to this. That's costing this amount. That's like if you're trying to run a con as a business, everyone will tell you you like don't make your money back on the show, especially because you're going to go out to drinks afterwards and, you know, it's hotel drinks. But then,
I'm sorry, did you say you might go out for a drink?
All right, well,
might.
I'm not inclined to. After I run the Ringo, I went back to the hotel room and just laid down for like a half hour. But the old man, like, oh, my back. Oh, that was a lot of excitement for one day.
Guys, how long were we up? Like 15 hours out there, right? Like,
but no, then you go and you meet people and you're friendly, and then sure enough, like a week after the con, I signed a deal where I'm like, oh, cool, that paid for my show. Like, sweet. That was the real con, was the people, the friends we made along the way. You know, you meet people, you make connections, and then stuff comes out of it. So it is part of the industry, but I oftentimes see artists who are like, you can tell, and I get it, because like it's expensive to go to these things, and you see people like selling print after print of like their Spider-Man pinup, and that's great, but like that's not going to get you Marvel work, because they don't want pinups, they want people who can do sequential books. So like
that was a big
they might be making their money at the show, but it's their business is the show, and our business is making books to sell outside the show. So you kind of got to think about what your business is and what you're actually there to push. And I was partially like that. The ash can you got at Time Dog, that was a total desperation move of like, oh my god, I gotta print these because I didn't bring enough. But then I'm like, but who cares what it costs to rush print them? I need to have this here because this is what I'm promoting, right? And if I just throw it for free, like half of them I gave away for free, it gets the word out there. And, you know, and I'm proud of the work. So the work is out. And again, we'll see if people like it. So, you
That's what it felt like the first few days, just being with like, I was helping lesser known comics and just kind of promoting their stuff. But really it was like trading books with people more than trading money and books with people and just like handing away free shit, stickers, postcards, like, bookmarks, and just getting that fucking check out our social media, tag us, be aware of what we have. We have free shit. Like, and it's an investment, but that's how you're going to expand a bit, and that's how you're going to get like more branching out. And that's how, we met and exchanged info. And now we're fucking hanging out, trying to like network and like promote each other. Like, that's the cool part. That's how it begins, is that I have something, you have something. Let's just kind of exchange the goods. And then, we're all fucking in the same battlefield trying to like get out there.
It's a cool crowd. I mean, I like the community. The comics community is great and very small when you get into it at the different levels. Of course, the guys on the top seem like they're on a mountain, but not a very high mountain. There's not that many people who do this. So if you don't know someone does that. It's interesting. It's a very small corner of publishing that is just a massive fucking IP mine right now, for higher media. But that part aside, I think when people get lost in the potential of what could be with something, like initially everybody gets into it because they have, I don't know, some sort of collector fetish problem and an affinity for art and an affinity for a weird kind of organic, soap opera storytelling almost. Something very it's very like mid afternoon grandma soap operas from years ago about comics, man. Like, at least on the episodic level of it. It's interesting.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, these are our stories, you know what I mean? Like, these are what we fucking take in, and this is what like gets us through shit.
A natural fit for like a convention socializing scene, so I also find that really interesting. Of like, you've just thrown a bunch of nerds together, and you cannot forget that we're all nerds.
You're bound to talk to someone for hours about something.
True. Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Well, as we wrap up, I mean, guys, I can't even believe it's been an hour fucking talking to you guys already. This was like
I can. No, we're the four of us are dangerous. We are. There's like, if we're in a room where there's only a limited amount of air, I mean, if I'm in that room and everyone is in trouble, but if the four of us were,
fucked. No life.
Well, I just wanted to ask before we go, is just kind of like, what's next for the two of you together? Like, what's like you don't have to spoil anything, but if there's any big projects, breaks, or if you guys are just kind of in the blueprints of what's next.
We have our next. Well, we have two of our next things. One is in the can, and the other is not in the can yet. We've got two things that we're kind of jamming with behind the scenes together. Personally, I have another project with Sean Von Gorman that we're gonna be throwing around next year.
Cool.
And then I have another thing I've been producing on the side as well that I'm bringing back, and that's a hint. I'm bringing it back. I haven't talked about too many things in this, so. But yeah, man, Vin and I we're coming out swinging once we get past the stupid holidays and whatnot. Once we get, but really, I mean, the next 6 weeks are where anything entertainment industry begins to shut down anyway. So that's the truth of it. If you're going to start pitching your massive book, it usually isn't when the emails get returned right before Christmas.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Everyone's like, wait a few more weeks.
Sadly, I hate this. Isn't this what everybody does? Unless they're like, yeah, my book's coming out next week. Yeah. We'll have more to talk about next year. Don't you hate that? I hate that.
Get you back on the show next year, though. That's cool. I'm fine with that.
All right. I'll
there
take
you
that.
go.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I am just breathlessly sitting here waiting for, in anticipation for my gigantic deluxe edition of Time Dog to come in, which, take it away, man.
Yeah, I mean, that one I can say that's done in a week. That campaign, when this podcast comes out, it's got like another week left on it. So please buy Time Dog and other fairy tales, other atomic fairy tales, pardon me. the 48-page oversized hardcover of all the Time Dog strips I have made, and some that I am going to make specifically for the collection. Still crowdfunding on Zoop. I'm stoked because today we got some folks to, today that we're recording this, we got some educators to buy the educator bundle. So kids are going to read it. It's going to be in school libraries. I'm stoked for that. It wasn't envisioned as an all ages book, but it kind of worked out that way because it's a dog and kids love dogs. So yeah, and then
at the
after that,
time,
I got a few other. Sorry, go ahead.
At the time of recording this too, like, dude, you need like $45 almost, like $85, 45. I suck at math.
No,
but,
I was looking at it here.
yeah.
It says $1.98 on this one. Somebody needs to buy a sticker. Wait, I'm lying.
I'll do it. I'll be the one to do it. Yeah, I got you. Here, I'll set it over the edge. That's what I do.
go.
I mean,
There you go. Yeah, man, you're fucking kicking ass at this. Like, and such a pretty extensive goal, like, for this.
And you know what? People who are listening to this podcast, just to be part of this moment that we're in now, even though they're listening to this in the future, which is our present, but their past, they should totally find the nearest dog around them and just let their inhibitions go, jump on it, travel through time, and come back right now and buy it.
There you go. There you go. That's how it works. Time Dog. Dude, also, Chris, my bad. Vince, who's your favorite? In fact, Chris, you can answer this shit too. Who's your favorite doctor? Since this was a very Doctor Who influence.
Oh yeah, man, dude. They say you like never forget your first doctor, right? So I grew up with David Tennant.
Yeah.
I'm stoked he's back, man. That I don't know how, I don't know why, but Russell T Davies and David Tennant back is like the doctor of my
dream.
Did
you keep up, like, after Capaldi or through Capaldi and after all that?
I watched a bit of the first season with Whittaker, and I love her, but I had a tough time with the writing.
Yeah, some tough writing, yeah. And that's where I fell off too, because the writing was rough. She kicks ass, but the writing was rough. Yeah,
it's hard. I agree. It's hard to quantify because you're like, I love all these actors, they're doing great, but like, I don't feel that like warmth of caring about any of these people. So.
And it's funny seeing Matt Smith in other roles because I'm just like, you're fucking Doctor Who. Dude.
Like, you look at Matt Smith and you're like, it doesn't feel right.
I'm very proud of Matt Smith. Matt Smith is also a great doctor. I watched a bit of the Tom Baker stuff because you gotta. But yeah, David Tennant's my boy.
Nice.
Yep. Yeah, I gotta do Tennant as well. He just sort of there's just something about him that made that character super charming. But Capaldi is a really like on his ass second, like barely, there's something about like grouchy.
Yeah,
the grouchy doctor was wonderful. He was nasty and mean and soft at the same time. It was good,
felt like 1,000 years old.
Man, I know, but you just loved him. You're like, oh, this guy's a bitch, but then you immediately you think about Tennant again, and you're like, yeah, but I like that guy.
Yeah,
I like him.
I will say,
wobbly, timey-wimey, whatever the term was, right? Timey-wimey.
Yeah, I use that all the time.
I didn't expect how dated it felt to go back and watch some of those episodes. But like, you go back and you're like, oh, that was the early 2000s. Oh,
Yeah.
But I honestly, I find Matt Smith way more rewatchable than I expected. Like, I think at the time I was kind of tired of some of the Stephen Moffat, like windy, like overdone timey-wimey stuff. But
yeah,
like
I think the best episode of Doctor Who is The Doctor's Wife. Like that one is just so good.
And as far as assistants go,
there
was what was it, Dr. Donna?
Yes, dude, Donna was the fucking best out of all.
Dr. Donna. Let us just say, Dr. Donna was the man. She was great. And then, again, a close second. And I think he was I don't think he was in the other seasons of the last Doctor, but there was, I can't remember his name. He played like I think he's a game show host in Great Britain, but he played the 50, 60-year-old just white older British guy that was in that run. I loved him. He was just the most normal like assistant in tow for that show ever. I don't know why I was all like, yeah, man. He was with what's her name, the lady doctor. He was in the. I didn't. that guy, was it Graham? I don't know why. It makes no sense why I dug him. I was just like, oh, it's like the old dude. Cool. I don't know why. I don't know why. I was just like, oh, cool. The old dude's in the scene. Oh, I'm in. I'm gonna watch the old. I was all into like just like, hello, have another pub, go to the pub, have a pint, like just like, you know, oh, my back hurts.
Just like fucking regular life shit, and you're just like, all right, I can vibe this guy.
I love the Cybermen. Oh, but my sciatica. Okay. Let's go with that guy. I don't know.
I gotta give that guy another shot for sure. Jeez, I got to catch up on all that stuff. That's so cool that you guys are into that. That's I feel like I could ramble with you guys forever at this point. Chris, we fucking talked for like an hour the first day, so yeah. Well, you know, I'm hyped that we got to do an episode so soon after Baltimore Comic-Con. Like, I'm glad I got to get both of you guys on the show. We'll definitely keep in touch. Vince, we'll see if we can get you on a, making comics, whatever the fuck we're going to call that segment at this point, Thursday nights. And Chris, dude, we'll fucking keep in contact. Let me know when stuff's coming out. I'll show you some of the scripts before I start, working on shit. So I have issue 1 getting typed up.
Send it. I read shit on Sundays. Do it.
Yeah, perfect. All right, it gives me a good time.
All right.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. But thank you guys both so much for taking your time out of your day just to hang with us for a random.
No, man. Thanks for letting us do this. Thanks for letting us talk about our crazy sci-fi book. That we got there, and that and dogs and time travel.
That's all I can ask for.
That's
literally all I could ask for.
You know what? Did that come from maybe like Doctor Who? What was the dog in Doctor Who? The mechanical one?
Oh, K9.
K9. Yeah, it's so fucking easy.
Is that really the name of it?
Yeah, K9. Yeah.
Oh.
It's great, man. They had a whole spin-off show with K9 and Company at one point.
Oh my god!
I don't know if it did. I don't think it did very well. But,
I don't think it did very well at all.
There's something to the connection of between dogs and like time travel sci-fi. Once I started looking into it, there were way more instances of dogs being prominent. There's like this is a deep cut, but Clifford Simak is like a classic 50s writer who did an entire like series of short stories about a future where dogs can talk to people, and they have these like insane philosophical discussions of like, oh, isn't it great that man now has a fellow sentient species to walk with him on the path to civilization? And that's just wild stuff. So no, I'm proud to be in that tradition, whatever it is.
And
people just love dogs.
Yeah, fuck yeah. It applies to like Apollo too. Apollo, like the name kind of came from I lived in El Paso, Texas. It was a sun city, so I didn't do sun, I did Apollo. But the dog in the Coheed and Cambria comic is named Apollo. And that's where I was like, that's where I'm gonna fucking snag that from Coheed. And so it was fate to have
let's just face it, man. Dogs are great, and the only reason that we never ate them was because somebody threw something round at one once, and it came back with it, and we were like,
cool.
Dude,
dude, look at that.
Whatever the word "dude" has been throughout the millennia, one guy went to the other, like, dude. Check out that one is dude. Look at this.
The tail wags and shit.
Yeah, so friendly.
Rolling on his back.
Right. A week later, they were like, "We got to eat him. We're starving." Like, no, not that one. He brings the thing back.
He sits down when you ask him to, and he likes it when you pet him.
Eat that guy. He tried to eat me. Like,
I'm gonna break the trend and talk about time traveling cats then. Shit.
There you go.
Those bastards. Those bastards.
Well, that's why I'm doing the cat comic. Like,
every time something's gone wrong, it would have been Time Cat, right?
Yep.
No, they don't deserve the bad rep, okay? We don't deserve them as much.
All right, we'll fucking cut it there. Thanks for hanging, guys.
Yeah, thanks for being here, guys.
Thank you both, man. This rocks.